Well, I'm going to do another silver update and market update. I guess things are going on here with Putin, the dog cat. This guy is like a little dog. I never seen a cat that's so dedicated and follows me everywhere, wants to know what I'm doing and wants to help. And he's looking at the other guy up there, Rocky Caesar. Anyway, I know, I was talking about the markets possibly changing, and lo and behold, they happened. But that's a little too early to state, because it's really got to drop a little more before the real fear factor comes in. But it's not just the U.S. markets that are dropping; it's also the Nikkei is dropping a lot, and globally, the markets have been dropping. So there's been a scare going back into the bonds now, which has been bringing down interest rates, which is good for keeping the government afloat a little bit longer. That's interesting too. But I just want to rehash again what happened back in 2008, 2009. The commodities basically crashed first, and then it was the S&P and the Dow that crashed, and then the Federal Reserve really blasted off on stimulus and QE, correct? But when the S&P and the Dow crashed at their lowest bottom, the lowest point was already reached at the metals. But when the S&P and the Dow crashed, it did bring the metals down somewhat. When that was happening, it did bring it down, but not to the absolute lowest point it was at. It already passed it. In other words, the metals were kind of creeping up real slow, and that's why I'm not sure if the sky is falling at it just yet. I suspect, which I've been, I'm really kind of, I'm playing common sense here. That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. But it goes a long way. We should have had a lot more problems in October, but they were forestalled. Talking about the budgets, but they were forestalled until basically the beginning of 2014. So when these budget problems come up here very soon, next month, that might be when things are talked about, the full faith, the actual full faith and integrity of the financial status of the U.S. government, how it can fulfill its debt obligations in the future, may be talked about, and maybe some of that's going to bring up gold and silver more, especially gold. But like I said, I really don't like gold as much because, in reality, even though gold is money, people can do without it. It's stored in central banks. It sits in people's safes and things like that. Ben Bernanke sort of has a, it's better than having electronic gizmos they play games with in paper currencies. But, he does have somewhat of a valid point that, it really does nothing other than store value. But it's been doing a good job at storing value for many centuries, so you can't knock it that way. But that's the only reason that's the big argument for things like the industrial precious metals like silver, platinum, and palladium. It's that they're rare, they do store value, and I'm just bringing this back to simple 101 again, and they get used up every year, especially like palladium. Actually, that's the one that really gets used up every year. Now, when I'm talking about some of these prices that possibly may go up a lot, I'm going to, the key adjective you want to really look at is spike. Spike. In other words, it's, when a bubble takes a life of its own, it just goes past what it should go. Fundamentally, it shouldn't make sense. Just like, the price of silver or whatever it is right now, fundamentally should be higher than it is for, obvious reasons, that the mines aren't making as much money as they should to keep up production, and eventually there's going to be a problem there. But at one point when it goes up, and say it was at $40, silver was just even at $40, the mines would be very profitable. But say silver went past $40 or past $50 to $70 or $75, the mines would be immensely profitable, unless, of course, oil was way to hell up there. Then that's another curveball. But the thing is, that's when I say it could spike. And I wish I knew where the exact peak would be. That's like the big question out there, because bubbles can go a lot further than they should. Look at the example when Twinkies was going out of business. Hostess was going out, no longer going to sell Twinkies. And Twinkies went for some crazy exorbitant amount on eBay as soon as that happened, because that was going to be the last box of them or something. And if there was like this panic into the precious metals, they can go way the hell above what they should go. The problem is you're going to have to be lucky to guess where the hell the exact spike is and when it's exactly going to occur. I think it's got a few years down the road. We might see a good year this year, but if we see too good of a year this year in the metals, I think they're going to come back down again. And, not to the levels they're at now, but they'll come back down. If we got some record gains in the metals this year, and you got to remember, like with silver, it only took about 6-7 months to go, from 18 all the way up to like 47, 48. With most of it coming in, like most really accelerating in the last couple months. So I mean, that's what can happen. We can be cooking along here, not doing nothing, and all of a sudden, and how are you going to predict that? So basically, it's a buy and a hold. And, you shouldn't be afraid to part with some of it if you get some crazy gains. That's how I look at it. So, and, I know if it does get crazy gains, people are going to be saying, well, the sky's falling, it's going, the dollar's going to zero. I don't think the dollar's going to zero that fast. If it does, well, there's going to be a lot of problems. It's not, if the dollar goes to zero, that means World War III is going on. And it's not going well for the United States. That's when the dollar's going to zero. It's not going into zero in peacetime like the way they're talking right now. I think there'll be other big warning signs before that ever happened. It may, maybe something will be coming up with China sometime. They're talking about, Russian and China is also building up their military hardware a great deal. And, there's a lot of things going on. It's not just in the Middle East with Iran. If Iran gets nuclear weapons, Saudi wants nuclear weapons, the world is going to be a great safe place. What can I tell you? So, maybe that stuff about prepping is not it's probably going to become more commonplace for sure. But, the U.S. economy, in a lot of ways, is probably going to stay strong because of innovation. Another thing and it includes the European economies. And Australia, obviously, we also seen what's happened there with the Okavango Basin. They have as much oil now proven as Saudi Arabia. Saudi's reserves look like they're going down. Australia's reserves they just found just recently are 40 times more. They knew they were there, but they proved they were there. The Okavango Basin. They're 40 times more than the original amount they thought as oil reserves in Australia. So, they talk about the West going down. I don't know about the West going down. The West is probably not going down that easy, at all. So, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And it seems that some of the things in innovation in the United States is going to keep things going well in the economy. And I'll point out a couple of things. I know there's talk about, using more carbon fiber, as far as in structural components in vehicles and things like that. And, if they get the revolution going here with the industrial hemp, you'll see hemp as part of that, maybe part of the structural component in, vehicles and things like that are being sold and cheaper and cheaper. But also, if you want to actually look at the production of goods and services that can be done in the United States, first off, Chinese labor costs are skyrocketing, correct? I mean, it's like, the American and Western European labor and all the European labor costs have been staying pretty steady. The Chinese labor costs have been going up way faster than, what the manufacturing production has been going up. And that's actually making the West more competitive. So, but there's another innovation out there. I'm kind of sidetracking on some of these things because when people talk about silver, you know, they always put it in with, and I'm not one of these people, they put it in with the sky is falling, the end is near, batten down the hatches, you know, watch out, you know, close all the portholes, you know, the storm is coming, hunker down in your cave. And it's not like that. You know, we're probably going to have a major problem in the financial currencies, you know, because they're going to keep doing the QE. But as far as like the world stopping, it's not going to. You know, that's why I don't like these fear pumpers. But just to give you another thing out there that's a major innovation, you know, you heard about 3D printing. You know, 3D printing, you can print up like plastic objects and things out of like strong types of resin that they're almost like metals. You can make objects out of them. Actually, you can make, you know, guns out of it and stuff like that. Well, they have a new 3D printer out that's new technology, and I think it's open source. You can use like less than $2,000 worth of you know, hardware to make this printer yourself. It prints metal objects, metal, steel, titanium, all this type of stuff. So, you know, that's actually one for the gun enthusiast crowd, because actually, if I understand the legality of even owning a gun, you know, they say you can't own a gun, but you can make your own gun. And I think that's legal. I'm pretty sure that's legal. So if you have a 3D printer, as long as you don't sell it to another person, you can make your own gun. But, you know, just also think of it, you know, that's the one for the Second Amendment. But if you also think of it this way, these 3D printing is probably going to revolutionize manufacturing. And because now it looks like it uses welders besides. I don't know exactly how it works. I was reading about it. Some new technology developed in the United States very recently. And they showed it on the web. It says you can actually get the parts for the 3D printer for, if you know how to put it together, you're like an engineer, for about under $2,000. And you can print things in metal, even titanium, steel, and all kinds of different metals. It's amazing. So, you know, when we talk about, you know, the end of the world coming up here, I don't think so. I don't think so. But as far as there being a currency crisis, that's probably likely. Because let me put it to you this way, it's simple 101. If there's going to be a major problem in S&P, where, you know, it's got to go down further than this. It's, you know, it looks bad today and yesterday, big drop, but it's, you know, if you start seeing like a, you know, 10% correction or something like that, you know, really fast, it's going to cause the Fed to act with more stimulus. And after a while, this money is actually, it is going to affect our currencies. It is. There's a limit to how much stimulus they can do. That's their only freaking method. They know what to do. If they actually had any brains, the Fed, but you know, they run a racket. You know, the Federal Reserve, the government, and Wall Street have a revolving door. I mean, that obviously is the problem. If they took the stimulus money, even if they printed paper money, and they gave it to industrial, hardworking, middle-class people like electricians, roofers, you know, people that are framers, you know, people that know how to grow crops, and mechanics and things like that, and they used it to invest in some capital to make their operations more efficient, it would actually stimulate the economy. But no, you know what they do is they bail out the too big to fail parasites in Wall Street. And you know, it's, even though it's more acute now, it's actually always been a problem in the United States. If you go back to the late 1800s, you know, you had the railroads, and you know, the Commerce Act was passed at the behest of the railroads to help limit competition. You know, even though they were saying it was the other way around. You had Big Oil, Standard Oil, which finally got broken up, and things like that. The antitrust laws, you know, the Sherman antitrust laws. This has always been a problem in the United States. Not that you should like ignore it, but you know, the other side of it is you shouldn't be like frozen, petrified in fear and worrying about it to, you know, like on a daily basis. You know, you just need to take action against it, where, you know, you fix it. But you know, silver right now is, you know, it's cheap enough that it's a sure bet. You know, say it did go down. let's say it went down. You know, there's a limit to what's going to happen in the physical market. And that's been my contention. It's like, I think right now, when you're buying silver coins or anything like the coins, I think it's a sure bet. Because if the market did drop through the floor on silver, it's going to be an electronic market. That's that age-old thing you always heard from David Morgan or something. But, in this case, it will be right. Because, at this low price, if they drop through the floor at $40 to $30, that's one issue. But if it goes from like 20 to 15 or 12 or 10, you're not going to have the coins available to all the people that want to invest in it at that type of price. And, that would be the case. But just looking back at what happened before, even though the markets dropped to their old, later on after the commodities did their final low, when the markets dropped, it did pull the commodities down somewhat. It did. But the commodities were already past, silver and gold were already past their lowest low. And then the S&P and the Dow made its final low. But it's very hard to judge something in 2 days. We haven't met like critical resistance and stuff. There's been a lot of gains in the S&P, so if there's a little correction over a couple of days, it may not be it. There may not be the big whammy coming up right now. But it does appear that it may be the start of it because, it's not just in the United States. It's also in the Nikkei and other places across the world. So, you're pretty safe in your silver investment now. I mean, anything you buy now, and the whole idea is, you're not going to put every last cent into something. You're not going to get like, I have all my money in silver, and if, something happens, I got to take it out in silver and sell it right now. You don't do that type of stuff. No, that's where people trip up, and that's always been bad. And, that was one of the problems with the silver people when they gave people advice like that. Do not keep any dollars at all. I was rolling my eyes at this shit, before, and now that it went down, it's like, oh, now it's good advice, but I never liked. It's just a common sense rule, and that's all I'm offering here, common sense. But if we hear all this talk about the United States is going to crash, the government's going to crash, just remember there's a lot of innovators out there, and there's a lot of new products coming out here. We're going to have plenty of product that will be very useful for Americans that they can use, even capital type assets that are very, that can help people produce more. That can be made with, 3D metal printing. That's a brand new thing. It just came out. It's cheap. It's going to be out real soon. It's probably going to be, I don't know, it might be pretty cool for the car restoration type people. You need one of these. Well, we'll just plug it in the computer and we can print one, and we don't have to warehouse anything. We can give you NOS new stock. I'm kind of going on a sidetrack here, but just think of the things. They're out there. You can get yourself a title to a rust bucket for a 55 Buick, and you just get yourself your 3D printer, and with your plans, hit your keyboard, and you got new parts for it, and you bolt them on, and you're all set, and you don't have to worry about emissions anymore. That'd be nice. Anyway, not that that's a pet peeve of mine. I hate these freaking new cars. They're like refrigerators on four wheels, even if they make them look like jet skis or something. I don't like them. Anyway, I like stuff made out of metal. So now we got 3D printers, but I just wanted to point that out is because when people are saying the sky is falling. The sky's falling if you think it's falling. If you have that attitude, you'll make it happen. You'll make it happen. So, there's people in the United States that are innovators, and they just came up with a new way to make 3D printing. So I guess, I don't know, maybe you could stamp coins cheaper that way. You put a bunch of metal in there, silver, you print out your own coins. I don't know. I don't know if that works that way, but it actually does not use all like a glue. It uses a welding mechanism in there, some kind of arc welding mechanism to actually melt the metal. And I don't even know how it works exactly, but I read about it. It's brand new. Pretty wild technology. So they can keep, it actually really, why has the United States traditionally been one of the it has been the number one manufacturer of goods in the world with the highest quality for a reason. Innovation and quality control. And that's another issue. When people like Lindsey Williams and a whole bunch of them. I don't even want to just pick on him. Gerald Celente or whatever. Even him. They're always saying, or Peter Schiff or whatever. Yeah, the Chinese are doing a better job than us and everything. But as their salaries are going up, it's like killing the profitability to manufacturing. So they got to have to raise the prices. And the other thing always has been, people, it's a pretty common concern. When people go to ChinaMart, otherwise known as Walmart, they always worry about getting something that isn't up to quality standards, and you bought something and it doesn't last because something's wrong with the way it was made or the structural metallurgy of the component itself. And that's the thing. It's like they have a hard time keeping good quality control, even when these people are going, the American manufacturers and European manufacturers and Australian manufacturers or whatever, Canadian, go to China and you put the business out there. What happens? What happens? They have a problem with quality control because a lot of these places aren't really like this big high-tech factory. It's like there's all these even the big high-tech factories use subcontractors to get all the parts from, which are like small family businesses. And then then they get shipped over here and they're assembled, and they have problems with quality control. So the USA isn't really going down. It's partly where some of the things are being affected is by people's attitudes. But yes, it is true that the too big to fail parasites are in New York City, and things that are always get bailed out for making bad bets on derivatives and stuff. That's going to be the problem where the actual currencies, there's going to be a currency crisis. And Warren Buffett has this, not that I like this guy, I don't like Warren Buffett. Okay, I don't like George Soros either. Okay, but I watch some of the things they tell us, because when Warren Buffett tells us, beware the dangers of paper currencies, he's giving us a good straight up hint. And he's not repeating it every day. He said it one time. And, a guy like him, though, but like I said, any business out there, if you look at their balance sheet, cash is a small part of it. There's capital assets in there that help keep going the production of goods and services. And that's why, even when you have your own little portfolio, whatever it is, you don't always have all cash. You actually have, stocks, which may be represented electronically or in paper, but you actually have something that's in a business that's producing goods that people need. So some of this stuff about all paper going to nothing is ridiculous. Paper that is government paper may be the real problem. That's almost looks like that will be the problem, because the only way out of, like, say, to keep the S&P up now and the Dow is for them to go back and abandon paper and rethink it and go back with QE, and that should also help the metals too. But don't expect things to happen overnight. But just I want to leave you with this: if you see major fast gains in 2014, like we saw in the latter part of 2010 and the beginning part of 2011, like in 6 or 7 months, silver went through the stretch, more than 2.5 times. If you see some crazy gains like that in 2014, I think, provided if it goes through 50, it should go to 72 to 75. But if it goes up that high, I know every single blogger out there is going to be telling you 100, 200, 500. I bet you it drops. I think we're a few years away before the real spike. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to catch the spike right at the top. And you know what that's going to take? Luck. It's not going to be all analysis. There's going to be luck involved there. It's going to have to be. It's going to have to be. But just be patient. We got some time left.